In this video, I'm going to show you every LEGO Galactus I have in my collection, including official LEGO ones and not so official LEGO ones. The goal is to see which of these is a more imposing threat to the Fantastic Four, because let's be real, most of these are not big enough to look like they can devour a planet. So let's get into it and see which one of these Galactuses, or Galacti, is the best. So I thought it only made sense to start with the very first and only Galactus we've officially gotten from LEGO. This came from a set that released with the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. And this set brings up the question, which is what actually makes a good representation of Galactus in LEGO form? And what I'm getting at is basically, should he look like a big person or a big minifig? If we take a look at the Civil War airport battle set from 2016, they had the first representation of a big Ant-Man. And that big Ant-Man looked like a big minifig. But with more recent sets, we don't see a big minifig Ant-Man, we kind of just see a big person Ant-Man. It's more of an action figure look than like a big Lego look. So we see a very similar thing here with Galactus. Instead of making him look like a huge Lego minifig, he looks like a huge person. So really it just comes down to preference and which one you prefer. Me personally, I prefer the big minifigure look, which is why I have 3 other versions that we're going to look at after this one. And that's also the same reason why my Statue of Liberty in my Lego New York looks like a big minifig instead of the more realistic looking Statue of Liberty options. I just generally think that in the LEGO universe, the Statue of Liberty should look like a big version of the Statue of Liberty minifig, and Galactus should look like a big version of a minifig Galactus. You can agree or disagree with that, but that's just how I feel. But I do still think there is a lot to like here. Galactus is very poseable, the colors are spot on, you get a few printed elements, and just generally he's big enough that he does look imposing next to minifigs. I think a lot of people like this version of Galactus, but there's still a lot of people who want the big minifigure Galactus. And that's where this next build comes into play. This is a re-brickable of that same Galactus set, which basically means you could buy instructions online and you're able to take the parts from that first Galactus and build this one. And I do think it is pretty cool. He does look a lot more like a minifig than the one in the set. And I do think this is a decent option if you want to go the minifigure route for Galactus. I wouldn't say it's perfect though. I think it looks way too small, especially when you put a minifigure next to it. And like, come on man, what is up with the hands? They look so weird. I remember a lot of people loving this re-brickable whenever it came out, and that's why I decided to give it a chance. But even after having these 2 different versions of Galactus, I really didn't feel satisfied, and I wanted him to be bigger and I wanted him to look a lot better. The designer of that re-brickable did a really good job of just using the parts in the set to make a Galactus that looks more like a minifig. So if you're someone who's not too happy with the original set, I think this is, yeah, a decent option. I just personally want an overall bigger Galactus. So now let's take a look at what I think is the worst option of these 4 different ones we're going to look at. And that is a literal minifig Galactus. Now I'm not sure where I got this. I'm pretty sure I got it on eBay and I don't know who exactly makes it. But chances are you can find it online for pretty cheap. And it's really odd because it appears to be based on the Galactus in the LEGO Marvel Superheroes game. But the main difference is they use the longer arms and legs that originally came with like Woody and that are in the Avatar sets. And I think this was just an effort to make him taller than an average minifigure. But let's be honest, this is not what you want for LEGO Galactus. In Marvel Comics, Galactus can change the size of his body, so I'm not saying it's like absurd that he would be this size ever. But for Galactus as a character, you want him to be giant. But for what it is, it's really not too terrible of quality. It's just pretty interesting to say the least. But it is still an option out of these 4, so I did want to show it to you and get your thoughts on it. But let's get this Galactus out of here and move on to the last one, which I think is personally my all-time favorite. So this Galactus is kind of the entire reason I wanted to make this video. This is a 3D printed Galactus, and I seriously think this is a work of art. This is made by the very talented Maxi Figures, who specializes in 3D printing large versions of minifigures. If you're not familiar with Maxifigure's work, he's actually made several different 3D printed figures for me, including my Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, my King Kong, and yes, my Statue of Liberty. Those were all made by him. I've also seen lots of other 3D printed Galactuses, Galacti, I'm still hung up on that, by other talented people who can 3D print things. I went with Maxifigures just because I really love his work and I think it's a lot cleaner than some of the other stuff out there. But if you're wanting to get a Galactus that's this scale that looks more like a minifigure, I do think looking into a 3D printed one would be a great option. And in my opinion, is the way to go. I know a lot of people want me to build one that pretty much looks exactly like this, but is made out of Lego bricks, similar to some of these other like bigger buildable figures. But to me, this is just way better. Because it is quite literally like what Galactus looks like in LEGO Marvel Superheroes. And again, in universe, what he would look like at this scale. I think just people who are LEGO purists don't love like the 3D printed stuff and they'd rather go the way of like a buildable figure made out of LEGO bricks. So again, if you're like that, you might not love this. But for me, I think this is my favorite of the 4 options and just looks amazing. It honestly brings my childhood memories to life. I mean, I can just picture this Galactus leaning over a shield helicarrier fighting the Avengers. This one just feels worthy to call a final boss. And yeah, I think he's just really imposing when you compare him to a minifigure. He's huge. And for all intents and purposes, this thing pretty much acts like a minifigure. Its legs, its arms can move, its head can turn, its head can come off. I mean, you could fully take him apart if you wanted to. And it just has amazing detail. I don't know exactly what the process is, if it's like painted on or it's kind of like built into the plastic when it's getting printed, but it looks really clean to me and just avoids that kind of gross, gritty 3D print look for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still texture there, but it's definitely the best Galactus out of any of the ones I've seen 3D printed. I think Galactus stands really well on his own, but to be honest, I think where he shines is when you start putting him next to other figures. Like him standing next to the Fantastic Four just looks like the Fantastic Four with Galactus. And comparing him to the other Galactuses, okay, I'm not even gonna try again, is like insane. He's the best in my opinion. The scale, the colors, just how accurate he looks, it's insane to me. And like I said before, I have had Maxifigures make me other large 3D printed figures, and it's honestly pretty surprising how much backlash I've gotten for including those in my city, specifically with ones like the Statue of Liberty that are a little more permanent. And why I think it's odd is because if you look at LEGO, we have gotten scaled up minifigures. Any one of the like flashlight sets, it's literally just a bigger version of a minifig. I think they've done like alarm clock ones that are even bigger than that too. So yeah, it's just always been a little bit weird to me when I get backlash on these kind of things. Because come on, we all wish LEGO would do something like this. A giant Ant-Man figure, a giant Galactus, a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, a giant like Godzilla. If they made some scaled up figures, they would sell like hotcakes. And yeah, it's generally my opinion that I'm fine with custom or like knockoff LEGO stuff as long as it's something that LEGO themselves haven't already made. So if LEGO themselves were to come out with a Galactus like this, I would be all over it, guys. So in general, that's how I feel. I think Galactus is one of the most imposing threats in the Marvel Universe, and I honestly kind of doubt it, but I do hope that down the line we get a much bigger Galactus that looks like much more of a threat. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Galactus. I just find it so interesting that people have so many different opinions on like similar things in the LEGO community. So I want to know which one of these you prefer. And just in general, do you prefer a bigger representation of a character to look like a bigger minifig or more of a bigger action figure type, like true to what they actually look like in those movies? It's just one of those things I don't think most people like consciously think about. And before I close out this video, I'm going to show you something that so many of you have been commenting and asking me to do, which is to add this Galactus to LEGO New York City. It's kind of the whole reason I got him. So I'm not going to talk, I'm going to put some like epic music on or something and just show direct comparisons of what this large figure looks like compared to my really big buildings. So I really hope you all enjoy that. And lastly, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your support across my different social media. Right now, I'm sitting at about 20,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I have over 50,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. So if you're also not following me on those platforms, go check them out. But I'm really looking to grow my audience here on YouTube and post a lot more exclusive YouTube content. So if that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing and checking out my longer YouTube videos. I would really appreciate your support. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Comment your thoughts on this video below. And now enjoy Galactus terrorizing LEGO New York City.